Drop, you can't ignore it. I'm transforming now these cars and planes. I'm always boarding. Just out touring down in Charlotte like I play for Hornets.
Evening, good Tuesday evening, ladies and gentlemen. How you doing? This is the TFG Sports Show. I am your host, Kendrick. You're watching the best 30-minute sports talk show on social media. I hope everybody is having a terrific Tuesday, a terrific start to your week. And I guarantee you probably are having a hot start because it has been hot, HOTT, for the last month and a half. But you can cool off a little bit. Go get you something to taste on, kick your feet up and relax. We're going to talk a little sports, what I love to do. Get your favorite sports team cup. I have mine, as you see. And we're going to talk it up. But before we get to talking it up, I need you to come in. I need you to hit that like. I need you to hit that share button to all your social media platforms. Make sure you comment. Definitely want you to comment because I want to talk back to each and every one of you. Again, this is the TFG Sports Show. I am your sports host, Kendrick. Again, make sure you like, share, comment, say hello to me. Let me know you're watching. Also, if you haven't, subscribe to the channel, the YouTube channel, TFG Sports Media on YouTube, and make sure you like and follow the TFG Sports Media page on Facebook. Without further ado, I got a special guest tonight, and I'm introducing you to some, but a lot of them already know. My guy, KLTV Sports Director Michael Coleman. Look at that, man. That is always on the road. And guess what, guys? He is live from Oxnard, California, covering the Dallas Cowboys training camp. Mike, how you doing, my brother?
Well, first of all, it's T. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I just want to make sure it's TGIK, and the K stands for Kendrick. So I know that. And I'll send a little cool weather your way. It's like 74 degrees here. I actually need a jacket. I didn't bring one, and I thought, wow, it's chilly here. But the gas prices, as high as they are,
right,
is still higher than the temperatures in Texas.
Wow,
that's how hot and high it is here.
Yeah, it's good to see you, brother. It's been a minute. I was going to ask you about the weather. First of all, getting a break from this Texas heat. I'm sure you enjoying that.
Oh yeah, me and your other former partner in crime, Mr. Claiborne over here. We did a stand-up on Monday. I said, man, it's really cold out here. The wind was blowing, and when we got into our car, it said 70 degrees, and it was only 4:30. 70.
Wow.
And I woke up this morning, it was 67 degrees. The high today, 82. So I'm not going to complain about that, man.
I know you not, because I'm going to tell you how hot it is back here in Texas. And you already know, we still looking at 98 degrees, and it's 6:33 p.m. So I'm kind of jealous of you guys. But and just to let all our viewers know, my connection to Michael and I have been colleagues. We worked together for a long time. We started actually covering Dallas Cowboys training camp together in 1999 in Wichita Falls. So we've had a lot of experience, and Michael has a lot of experience in covering Dallas Cowboy training camp as well as the Kansas City Chiefs and the Giants and the Jets. So Michael has a lot of experience. So we're going to get down to it. Let's go. We're talking Cowboys. First of all, what's going on today? What happened today, Mike?
Well, today was Jerry's State of the Union Cowboy address where he talks to the media. We'll have access to the players tomorrow. So there was no workout for the media anyway. The players were working out, but we were not allowed to do anything with them. So Jerry held court for about an hour, 15, hour and a half, and he got a lot of things off his chest, man. For instance, there were some people who were close to him who passed away. Right. And not just folks close to him, Marion Barber. You kind of knew he was talking about him. Larry Lacewell, one of his former assistant coaches. And I think his really tight administrative assistant, I don't know her last name, escapes right now, but her name was Marilyn.
Yes.
And we went,
yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And we went back to talking about her. He says, this is my first training camp without her. Mm. Oh, and he was feeling it. He got choked up. Mm. He had kind of like take a pause, and then get back into Jerry mode.
Right.
And he even talked about finding somebody the same height, because Larry Lacewell is a short guy.
Yeah, I remember Lacewell. I remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
He talked about finding somebody the same height as Lacewell and dressing up as Lacewell and pretending that's Larry Lacewell on the field coaching.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
But
Okay.
so he talked that, and what more importantly, what he got off his chest was all this talk about Mike McCarthy being gone after this year. Y'all can just nip it. Pretty much is how he was saying. He said, "I don't know what y'all. This is media. This is media stuff. It's not true. If I didn't think he couldn't get us a Super Bowl, he wouldn't be sitting next to me." So he was very, very adamant that because Clarence Hill, Clarence,
Yeah.
who was humorous. He said something, and McCarthy goes, "Well, hey, thanks, Clarence, for sticking up for me," or something like that. And then someone asked Mike another question. He said, "Wow, I got 3 questions in a row, and I'm sitting next to the guy that answers all the questions." So for me, that told me how much more relaxed McCarthy is. I don't recall him. Do you recall him being that funny? McCarthy. Wasn't he relaxed?
No.
That was the most extreme relaxed McCarthy has ever been.
As Arthur says,
because usually he's like a. He's not tight, but he's stern.
Right.
He's a stern
dude. He
bottom
was
line,
loose.
like a general in the army or something.
He was light and loose. He had some good one-liners coming off the top of his head. And then when Mr. Newey Scruggs, he gonna get to the dirt of it.
Right.
He's like, he said. So after Jerry gave all this glowing review, he's like, "So no extension?"
Oh.
Jerry goes, "Well, no, not right now."
Oh.
And then Mike goes, "Thanks, Newey."
Oh.
But Jerry's point was,
yeah,
I don't get an extension. That's what Jerry said.
right.
But he was saying, listen, I thought you all were aware of the years that Mike is going to be with us. And, he said he had told everybody, but he reiterated, this guy ain't going anywhere. Now, famous last words.
Right. Oh, I think, we lost Mike.
Well, to see Jerry,
okay, there we go.
Jerry genuinely stand up for his guy. And as Arthur just attested to, Mike was loose, humorous, and comfortable. And I think that's the most comfortable he's been since he's been here. Because remember, when he jumped on board, we were in the middle of COVID.
Right.
Remember that?
Right.
Then,
yeah, right.
Right? And then training. There was no training camp. There was pseudo training camp in Frisco. Right. And of course, last year was pretty much his first year really having a camp. And so now, having won 12 games, going to a playoff game, I think he's got a little bit more to be proud of in terms of the direction that team is going. Right. And they still got some work to do. They all know that's the truth. But Jerry also talked about there are some new faces and some of those old faces who were very good at their job. Now here you're thinking Amari Cooper and Randy Gregory and Lyle
Collins, right?
Yeah, and he doesn't say him by name, but he also said some of our players who aren't here were among the top 10 best in their category. Mm-hmm. But if you're not available, I don't know.
Oh! So he took a dig. I know who he took a dig at with that one. That's a dig.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, we're gonna get into the bullet points. And you talked about Amari Cooper. Obviously, that was one of the big news of the offseason when they traded Amari Cooper back in March to Cleveland for a 5th round pick and swap a 6th round picks. And this receiving core is going to look a little different, Mike. What's your thoughts on the trading of Amari Cooper and the receiving core?
Well, I will say this. I think because, Michael Gallup is still healing, still recovering, so you won't see him for at least 4 games, maybe 6, I'm guessing, or based off what they're saying. I surmise that if Gallup wasn't hurt, he'd been the one traded. I think he'd be the one traded. Because what you got for Cooper, you could have got for Gallup. That, like the 5th or 6th round situation.
Right.
And plus, there was talk of Gallup perhaps becoming a free agent last season. Right. But Jerry turns around and gives him the contract and ships Amari Cooper out of town. And maybe that's the availability thing, But, if you're going to say that, doesn't that also account for Gallup, his availability? Because you talk about availability, he won't be right away. So, that's a mixed message. But he said that Jerry did say, availability is very important. Availability is very important for you to get that increase of that contract you want. If you can be all world, but if I only got you for half a season, I can't give you that new money that you're looking for. And so I think he hit the nail on the head when he said, love your skill level, but you got to be available.
All right, where you see CD Lamb now? He's basically the number one guy.
He's the guy.
What do you?
I like that because I think he had some drops last year.
Yes, he
I'm
did.
not going to sugar. He had some easy drops. He made the tough catches, but he had the easy drops. And I think those drops came from just being lackadaisical. You know how sometimes a receiver is accused of thinking about what he's going to do in the end zone once he catches it, and you got to catch it. You got to catch it first before you can think about what you're going to do in the end zone. And even then, you got to score. But I think he's going to do well. I think let's face it. Let's go through the number of 88s who've worn that jersey and who they are and where they are. You got Drew Pearson.
Mm-hmm.
You got Mike Irvin.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Des Bryant.
Mm-hmm.
And now you got the latest 88. So you got to – players know if you're wearing this jersey, there's going to be some accountability for you to take care of business. And so this is going to be the year for CeeDee Lamb to show he deserves to wear that jersey, and he deserves to be the number one receiver on this team. Cedric Wilson, I believe. I love me some Cedric Wilson.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a big loss for them. I think in that slot. But go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, I see. That's where Tony Pollard comes in.
Okay, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to get to that later on. But go ahead.
I think Pollard will be that receiver in the slot on some plays where he and Zeke will be on the field at the same time. And don't sleep on Mr. Pollard, okay, folks? Because this young man, he's got good hands, he's got great running instincts, and I think it's time, maybe past time, to get him on that field with more touches than what he's had in the past.
Well, they drafted a receiver in the third round, Jalen Tolbert, out of South Alabama. Yeah. Don't know much about him. I'm thinking they looking like for him to contribute, and they signed James Washington from the Steelers in free agency. So what you think, James Watson? Where do you see him fitting in this offense?
Well, I think he's a secondary receiver, which is not a bad thing. First of all, you got a guy that's a proven commodity. And he comes from a very disciplined Mike Tomlin regime. All right. In fact, he might raise his eyebrows at some stuff the Cowboys do. Wait a minute, y'all do that here? We didn't do it that way in Pittsburgh. But no, I just think the chemistry for him and Dak. That I understand all those receivers worked with Dak during the offseason, and I think we're going to see that difference. I mean, I miss Cedric Wilson. I mean, I love that guy, but I think Washington will bring his experience, sort of like Juju Smith-Schuster up in Kansas City. He only got a 1-year deal, but that means you get a chance to ball out to prove to us you want to be around. And I think the same thing with Washington. I think he's going to be a good addition. But all eyes are on number 88, CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah. Speaking of 1-year deals, I know you saw this, Mike. Julio Jones signed a 1-year deal with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Just to throw that in, we talked about 1-year deals. So anyway,
let me add this on there. I think Gronk will be missed more by Brady than Tyreek by Mahomes.
That's interesting.
I really believe that.
Okay, let's move on to our next Cowboys bullet point. Defensive end, Randy Gregory. Oh, man, he does a reverse on the Cowboys. Didn't like some of the wording in that contract. He basically left for the same money for Denver, but I understand why he did it. Mike, how big is a loss Randy is he going to be to that defense?
Dude, you know how big it is because it's been hard to get a player of his caliber to play as he does. And just when you get him where he's supposed to be, and Jerry rises him up because Jerry was in his corner. I mean, Jerry said, listen, I know you got some issues, and we're going to work you through this because Jerry knows I can't let this guy go. And Jerry was upset that this guy left. And he was more upset, not so much with Gregory, I don't think. I think with his own people. I think he was like, what? And it's all semantics, obviously, the way the contract's written. But Jerry since then has maintained we'd have worked that deal out. And I guarantee you don't think there was no – they talked about Mr. Trump throwing his plate of food up the wall when he was upset.
Yeah. When he's upset,
Man,
I'm sure.
Jerry was like ballistic times 10.
I'm sure,
Because he homegrew that kid. He homegrew that kid.
And he stood behind him and helped him with all his off the field issues and all that. So
and Jerry is known for that.
Right. And the one thing I will say about Jerry has his quirks and some things that but the one thing you can't say about Jerry, he's loyal to his players. He's going to be loyal to those that's he's going to stick with you. So I can kind of see Jerry's position on feeling like, okay, we could have talked about this language. If you didn't like it, how come rather than you run off and sign, just hey, maybe we could have worked it out. So I kind of get his position on that.
And they're going to do a practice session with the Broncos.
Oh, that's going to be interesting.
I believe, yeah, they're going to do a practice session.
Well, you know, Gregory, really his stats wasn't all that impressive. He only had, 15 tackles, 6 sacks, 3 forced fumbles. But he was a pressure guy coming off that edge. He was bringing it every down. So it's going to be interesting to see what that defense looked like with Dante Fowler. I know they signed him to kind of replace, I'm assuming, Randy Gregory.
Right.
But I think that's a big loss for them on that defensive line.
I'm being funny here, but let me throw this in there. You know, weed is legal in Colorado.
Yeah, I already know. Yeah, that's probably why he left. He probably had that worked into his Broncos contract.
Everybody got 3 dispensaries named after him.
You're probably right. But anyway, now we know why Randy Gregory actually left, because he could go smoke some of that good stuff in Colorado. Yeah. All right, let's move to our next bullet point. We're gonna talk about this offensive line. Will the offensive line be better? Obviously, they lost Connor Williams. He wasn't that. I don't think he was a big deal. It wasn't a big loss
because he caused so many penalties, and even Mike McCarthy talked about the pre-snap penalties hurt those Cowboys. And I think him being gone, I think hurts to have Collins not there. Now the kid Tyler Smith, I believe his name.
Yeah, Tyler Smith. Right.
I know he played tackle, but from my understanding, they're going to try him out at guard. I'm like, why?
They've been playing them. Yeah, they've been playing them at both positions. What I've been reading.
Yeah. So I think their line, I think they're going to be better, but that's going to be based off the results of the yardage gained and the play of Dak Prescott, number 4.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about the center, Tyler Biazdes. I probably mispronounce his.
Right.
Is he the answer?
Well, we don't know. They've been looking for a center ever since the big boy retired a few years ago. They've been looking to fill that position. And I know you're talking about too, Tyler B. We'll just do it that way. Yeah. He's going to have to be. There ain't no. It's like Jerry said. Jerry says when he came into last season, he felt really good about the team. Well, that good feeling got him to the playoffs in a crazy loss to San Francisco. And McCarthy followed up by saying, we're at a better starting line this season than we were last year coming in. So if you're listening, Tyler B., that means you are going to have to step up your game. You're a young guy, but you're going to be the guy that's going to be the rock on that offensive line. Because the center is usually the guy that commands where everybody's doing things left and right. He's the guy.
Right. He makes the calls. He makes the calls and adjustments. Yeah.
He's the catcher catching from the pitcher. So I think he's going to be the key to that offensive line. But once you start seeing the success that Zeke, Dak, and even Pollard are having, I think that's going to really extra motivate the offensive line. Like, you know what? We may not be where we are yet, but we're getting there, and we like the results on our way there.
Let's ask you about the big guy, Tyron Smith. Is this a make or break year for him? Could this be his last hurrah?
I think it is, because we hear a lot about him, but since I've been in Texas, all I've heard were the injuries about him. You can say the same thing to a lesser degree, though, of Zeke Elliott. Zeke was not the Zeke of old when I came back to Texas back in 2018. He held out that camp, if you recall, to Mexico, wanted more money, got his money, but you ain't seen him really live up to the value that he has. Now, I've seen some video of him. He looks in shape, swivel hips he's got and whatnot. Let's see if that is going to be in play this year. But no, I think for that big offensive lineman you just talked about, he's going to show what he got.
Yeah, I think he's been hurt so much the last couple of years. Yeah. I think this is probably his last hurrah. Yeah, because he just can't seem to stay on the field. Now let's talk about Big Zach Martin. Everybody's really talked about, man, this guy probably could go down as one of the top offensive linemen ever to play the game at the guard position. What's your take? Is Zach Martin is the glue to kind of keep this thing together? What's your take on him?
Well, I think he took over for Connor Williams, didn't he? Because Connor was doing a bunch of jumping off sides, and I believe they're like, we got to cut this out. And they brought him in, and he's been there ever since, I think early or mid-season. The sound we had from him yesterday, is this team needs to find its identity, and we need to find out who we're going to be or who we are when camp breaks. So when you hear a guy talking like that, and he also talked about how he has seen progress during the offseason of where they want to be, then he's got to be a part of the conversation to be one of those guys that practices what he's preaching and step it up as well.
Yeah, I think Zach Martin definitely has been the glue to kind of keep this thing together. But I definitely think the offensive line is going to have to be better. I think they're gonna have to pass protect better, and I really think Tyron Smith is gonna have to stay on the field. Now this Tyler Smith kid, everybody's talking about he got some dog in him. That's what I've been reading. They say this kid, he got some dog in him. But the one knock on him is he had a lot of penalties at Tulsa, a lot of holding penalties is what I've been told.
Yeah, and I think I also read where.
What's up, Charles?
Go ahead. He's a guy he's an athlete. Yeah. He's versatile, and just because he played at Tulsa, that those things don't mean anything anymore. It probably didn't mean anything back then when it did. It was just hype. Oh, he played at a bigger school than such and such. Hey, you know what? Walter Payton played at Jackson State. We know all about Walter Payton. So I think he is going to be an experiment. But you don't want to draft a player in the first round and be your experiment. But that's what they've done. I think he'd have been there in the second round. He might have been there in the third round. So we're going to see if he was worthy of being the number one draft pick for the Dallas Cowboys.
All right, let's move on to our next hot take. Zeke or Pollard? We talking about the running back position. Who should Tony Pollard kind of be the guy to carry more of the load, Mike? What's your thoughts on it?
You got to give it to Zeke for no other reason because of that contract. That's the thing. It's like, why are we paying this guy's kind of money? He's only getting 2 carries every 4 downs or whatever. So it's going to be Zeke. Make no mistake about it. But I do believe Kellen Moore is going to make Tony more active in that offense, get him on that field more, as I talked about earlier. And Zeke hears it. He probably hears it from his buddy because, he and Dak are very close. And, I don't think Dak needs to say, sit down and listen to what I got to tell you. They just know what has to happen. They came in together. They want to continue to do great things together. And I think Zeke's going to pick it up some because he's heard the whispers. And even himself has to be disappointed in what hasn't happened for him. But he can still rack up some yards. He might not have the home run threat anymore, but he can still rack up those yards to put the offense in good field territory.
Yeah, and Zeke, we there. And Zeke, let me just go with their stats last year where Zeke, he carried the ball 237 times for 1,002 yards, 10 touchdowns, and a 4.2 average. And his longest run was 47 yards. Tony Pollard had 130 attempts, 719 yards, and 2 touchdowns, 5.5 yards per average, and his longest run was 58 yards. Actually, when you look at that, that is really a really good balance of carries between the two. I think really that's what you want to do. You think is Kellen Moore, should he continue to work it like that?
Well, he looks at the film every day, and he's and when you're an offensive coordinator, part of your job besides calling the plays is be creative with the talent that you have. And there's a lot of untapped talent in Mr. Pollard coming from Memphis State, and I think Kellen Moore is going to dig deep and pull it out of him.
Yeah. Zach Martin is a future Hall of Fame. I agree, Charles. And Charles calls them Thunder and Lightning, number 20, 21, and number 20. And that's coming from a 49ers fan. Charles is a 49ers guy. And Charles also said Kellen Moore needs to be better. I have to agree with that. I think Kellen Moore, he was the guy his first, the first year.
He was the boy wonder.
Play caller. He was the boy wonder. And I just think he fell in a rut. I think he got a little bit predictable. And I think he has to use his weapons better because I don't know if you saw this. Amari Cooper threw a little shade at Kellen Moore. He was complimenting CeeDee Lamb, but Amari Cooper said, if they know how to use him right, he should be okay.
Yeah, that's some shade
coming from Amari. That's from Amari Cooper. So basically, what Cooper is saying that Kellen Moore needs to figure out how to call a better offensive game plan,
and they need to be more aggressive. I mean, you just got to be, And I like teams to take chances. It's just a matter of when do you take those chances. You don't take if you're down by 2, don't take no chances. With 4 minutes left in the game because you're still in the game.
Right.
But you have to outcoach. You have to outcoach that opponent under those circumstances, and if you roll the dice, you better be right. Perfect example was Denver's coach. Denver on 2 occasions against Kansas City left threes on the table, and he said,
"Oh yeah, I remember that." Yes,
he said, "I'm gonna always be like I am." So then you're gonna always lose to Kansas City.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. So any other nuggets from the news conference, Mike, that stood out to you from Jerry?
Jerry says, I'm a risk. Speaking of risk, he says, I'm a risk taker. And his point was, someone says, well, when you think about your success you had when you first got here, how do you come to work knowing that's been that long since you've been able to go to the next level? He says, you know what? I don't even think about so what you might think is a bad time. I don't think I think about all the successes I've had and continue to try to parlay that for more success. I'm a risk taker. I will always be a risk taker, and that's just my makeup. I don't go over and feel bad and pout about what we should have done. I just move on to the next one because I know I've been successful in my life. And I've been successful with this team. That's not going to stop now.
I know one of the biggest complaints I've seen from Cowboys fans is the Cowboys wasn't very aggressive in free agency this past offseason.
They were quiet. They had a quiet. I mean, they got a USFL guy.
Right. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
I mean, like, whoa. So no, and maybe they just feel comfortable with who they have. They say, we don't need to do that. We're gonna stick with who we have and make this thing work the way we know it can. So you're taking a risk, but Jerry's like up front. That's what I do.
And they never really been a big player. I mean, they signed Brandon Carr a few years ago to that big free agency deal, but outside of him, they never have done that. Charles Moore says, he doesn't take a risk in free agency. I'm just saying, ask Von Miller. Yeah, Von Miller, they said, word on the street was Von Miller really wanted to come to the Cowboys, but them numbers just didn't match up. And Stephen Jones, Stephen Jones is the cap. He's the cap scientist, so if it don't fit into his formula, he ain't budging one way or the other. So
scram.
Right, exactly. Now, let me ask you this, Mike. Did anybody ask about the Kelvin Joseph situation, the cornerback?
They did. And Jerry's point was, he just said, we'll wait and see what happens. We don't know any more than what you guys know. We'll just let the system flow and do what it's supposed to do. And anything further develops, we'll let you know.
My last one on Jerry. Did anybody ask him about him possibly being the baby's pappy?
I knew you're going. I knew, but what's funny is, with the gaggle at the end. For those of you who don't know what a gaggle, that's when all the reporters get around the person you're interviewing. And Clarence Hill, who's quick-witted, the writer for Fort Star Telegram.
Yeah, right.
Something about the word court came up.
Oh man, come on back. I lost you, Mike. Repeat it. I lost you for a second.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Something about the word court came up,
and
Clarence says, and we all trying to stay out of court, right, Jerry? And Jerry just started laughing. Everybody was laughing when he said that.
And for the viewers that don't know, Jerry, some young lady has said that Jerry is her father, and it's been this ongoing situation the last couple of months. So anyway, I just thought I was wondering if anybody
I bet you she got season tickets.
Oh, I bet she does. Yeah, I mean, according to what we read, that her schooling and everything has been paid for. So anyway, that's a whole nother topic. We're gonna stick to football. I guess my last, Mike, I'm gonna let you go. I know you're busy, probably get stuff together. I lost you again. I'm gonna keep talking. For those that's watching, Charles, man, thanks for coming in. Make sure you hit that like, share, comment button, share this to all your social medias, and subscribe to the YouTube channel, TFG Sports Media on YouTube, and on Facebook, like and follow. Mike, last, I'm gonna let you get out of here. We go a couple of more minutes. What you got? What's your schedule? What you got planned? What can people look out for as far as your stores?
Tomorrow the players will be available, and we're going to do a thing with Micah Parsons because, as McCarthy had said, the rookies last year hit it out the park. And so I followed up with, with a guy like Micah Parsons who was able to deliver in the fashion that he did. How did you see his confidence on a week-by-week basis grow with the responsibilities you gave him. And he gave a great answer. It's like, this guy here, he wants to be good. He wants to be famous, and he is the real deal. And so we're going to try to track him down tomorrow, Micah Parsons, and that could be one of the focus of our story tomorrow. We're going to try to do CeeDee Lamb.
Right.
You know, because a lot of what Jerry and McCarthy and even Stephen Jones say today, that's good sound because they're being transparent, and you can take that sound and attach it to the story on the individual they're talking about and make it flow. So that's I'll be in my my sports writer's kind of way of doing things for the next 9 days or so, man.
Oh yeah, you know. I remember. I may not be riding the bicycle anymore, but I don't forget. I know how it goes down for sure. Now, what's the practice scale? Are they doing one practice a day, 2 practices a day? How's that? How they doing
just
that?
One a day.
Okay.
McCarthy's going to be available at 10:30 in the morning, and then at 11 o'clock the players, and then at 1:30 availability. And you call it a day. Now they may come out and do some walkthroughs, but everything I looked at in their schedule has them. The real practice at 1:30, which that helps us out when we're trying to beat deadlines because we can work ahead. And so the grind for the media here covering the Cowboy training camp, which is, as you know, is a Texas Sportscasters Convention. That's what it is. That grind begins tomorrow, and let's go with it.
And how long are you guys going to be out there?
We will be here. Our last practice day will be a week from Wednesday, and we'll fly out Thursday morning.
Okay. And tell the viewers where they can find your story, catch all your stories and catch your lives and all that good stuff.
KLTV.com. You can go to our website, and some of these stories that I produce and report on will be there. Instagram, 4908, I believe, and Twitter at mcoleman4. So you'll see a lot of me for the next week or so, doing some different things on social media. And so respond, follow. Let me take you to the promised land.
Man, y'all follow my guy. This is Michael Coleman, my brother. Y'all follow him. Go to KLTV.com. Make sure you go to the sports section. You can find him. You can find his stories there. Follow him on his social media platforms. Again, Michael, tell him that again. I think you could. Tell him where they can follow you on social media.
On Twitter at mcoleman4, number 4 at mcoleman4. Michael Coleman 4908 on Instagram. I'm still learning the Instagram game. It's a different kind of game, but I'm learning it just for the sake of this, if you will. And KLTV.com where I can be found.
All right, give me your final thoughts, Mike. Then I'm gonna let you get out of here.
Well, it's gonna be a very interesting training camp because the Cowboys tasted it. They got beat in the playoff against San Francisco, but they tasted it. And they haven't tasted that in quite some time, and now they got it. And Dak's going to be healthy. You know, that's one thing Jerry said. Jerry said what he doesn't want is for the third day of practice is Dak to have a sore shoulder and nobody knows how it happened. He's like, but that's way behind him now. So the last 2 years, we know Dak hasn't been the 100% Dak. And I surmise the best game the Cowboys played last year was the opening season loss to Tampa. That was their best game.
I think you're right. I think you're right. And also, I have to plug. Guess what? Those Cowboys. Guess where they're going? They come to Lambeau this season. So, hey, as my boy Teo says, get your popcorn ready. Y'all coming back to Lambeau. All right, Mike. I'm gonna let you get out of here, my brother. Thanks for
buddy. Good talking to
me, man. I'll be hitting you up, man. Let me know if you got any breaking news. I'll hit you and see what you got. All right.
You know where I am, my man. You know where I am.
Okay. All right. Peace out, my brother. All right, guys, that's a wrap for TFG Sports Media. I want to thank Charles Moore for always coming in and commenting. Thank you, brother. I want to thank anybody else that come and see this later. Make sure you like, share, subscribe to the TFG Sports Media on YouTube and on Facebook, and then comment in the section as well later, because I go back and check out those comments. So, again, that was my guy, KLTV Sports Director Michael Coleman out of the ABC affiliate in Tyler, Texas. And I hope you enjoyed our Cowboys edition of TFG Sports Media. I'm your sports host, Kendrick. You can catch me here on Tuesday nights at 6:30. So I hope everybody enjoyed the rest of your evening. I'm going to let you go have some good dinner, and I'm out. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Yeah, money clip us now, the new now looks like, whoa. Upgrade her diamonds, now her girlfriends are like, whoa, 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 whoa. I hit record it, drop, you can't ignore it. I'm transforming now these cars and planes, I'm always boarding. Just out touring down in Charlotte like I play for Hornets. When